The hum of voices in the cafe was steady, like the sound of distant traffic, broken now and then by the sharp hiss of the espresso machine. The place smelled of burnt coffee grounds and fresh pastry, a mix that should have been comforting. It wasn't. The seat across from me was empty 1 second, and the next, a man I'd never seen before slid into it without a word. He didn't look at me right away. His eyes scanned the room, pausing for a fraction too long near the counter, before dropping to his hands. One rested flat on the table, the other moved under it, a small, deliberate motion. Something brushed against my knee. I glanced down and saw a folded napkin, creased in half twice, its corners damp from his palm. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over it. "What?" "Read it," he said quietly, his voice barely louder than the hum of the refrigerator behind the bar. I picked it up. The napkin was heavier than it should have been. There was paper inside. I unfolded it under the table, keeping my eyes down. The handwriting was uneven, rushed, the ink smudged like it had been written against a rough surface. "He's a killer. Don't you dare look up." For a moment, my brain refused to process the words. Then instinct kicked in, my shoulders stiffening. Every cell in my body wanted to turn and scan the room, but the phrasing, "Don't you dare," rooted me in place. My grip tightened on the paper, and I forced my eyes up to meet the stranger's. He didn't blink. His jaw moved slightly, like he was grinding his teeth, but his expression stayed neutral. One of his legs bounced under the table in small, rapid motions. "Who?" I kept my voice low. He didn't answer immediately. His gaze flicked over my shoulder for less than a second, then back to me. "Not here. Not now." My heart was pounding, and suddenly the small sounds of the cafe, the clink of a spoon, the scrape of a chair, were too sharp. The napkin was still warm in my palm. "You're going to have to tell me more than that," I said. "Later," he murmured. "If you want to leave here in one piece, you're going to trust me." The warning wasn't shouted or dramatized. It was casual, almost conversational, and that made it worse. I felt a chill creep along the back of my neck. I didn't know his name. I didn't know why he'd chosen me. All I knew was that someone, somewhere in this room, was watching, and I couldn't turn around to find out who. The napkin felt heavier in my pocket than it had on the table. I waited until the stranger's eyes flicked away before slipping my phone from my bag. My hands moved slowly, deliberately, like any sudden motion might draw attention. I tapped the camera, switched to selfie mode, and angled the screen just enough to catch the reflection over my shoulder. 2 tables back, a man sat perfectly still in a tailored grey suit. His spine was so straight it looked uncomfortable. He wasn't talking to anyone, wasn't reading, wasn't touching the untouched cup in front of him. He just watched. The stranger across from me saw the moment I spotted him. "That's him," he said, barely moving his lips. I kept my voice flat. "You know him?" He gave a small nod. "So do you." The words landed like a shove. My mind went to work, flipping through faces from the past few years. "Nothing. I don't." "You do," he said again, sharper this time. "Courthouse. Last year." The air in my lungs thinned. The courthouse. The only time I'd been there was for my father's estate hearing, the same day the original files from his case disappeared. I glanced down at my untouched coffee. "What's his name?" The stranger hesitated, scanning the room again before answering. "Graham Mercer." The name meant nothing to me, but something in the way he said it made my stomach knot. "And you're telling me his?" "I'm telling you," he interrupted quietly, "that is dangerous. And that is not here for the cappuccino." A waitress passed by, smiling politely at us before moving to another table. The moment she was out of earshot, the stranger leaned in. "You're the only person still alive who can connect him to what happened. And he knows it." My chair creaked as I shifted, the sound loud in my own ears. "Connect him to what, exactly?" The stranger's gaze didn't waver. "The night your father died." For a second, it felt like the air pressure in the room dropped. I swallowed, my fingers curling into the edge of the table. What does he think I know? I asked. The stranger glanced at Graham again. Everything. A cold pulse of fear went through me, but under it was something else, a tight coil of anger I couldn't explain. We left the cafe through the side door, stepping into the cooler air of the alley. The stranger, Daniel, he finally told me, kept a brisk pace, his hands deep in the pockets of his dark jacket. I followed close, glancing behind us every few steps. The main street was busier, traffic noise drowning out our footsteps. We stopped beside a narrow bookstore with dusty windows. Daniel positioned himself so we could still see the cafe through the reflection in the glass. "He's not following us yet," Daniel said. I took a slow breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "You said this is about the night my father died." Daniel's eyes stayed on the glass. "It wasn't an accident. And it wasn't natural causes like they told you." The words felt heavy, like they belonged to a conversation I wasn't ready to have. "Then what was it?" "Your father had files, corporate contracts, payment records, that tied Graham to a security breach worth millions. He was going to testify. 2 weeks before he could, he collapsed in his home office. No autopsy, just a quick burial." I turned to look at him directly. "You're telling me Graham killed my father?" Daniel didn't answer right away. "I'm telling you Graham was there that night, and the files disappeared the same hour your father died." The city sounds seemed distant now. "And you think I know where the files are?" Daniel finally met my eyes. "I don't think. I know." I shook my head sharply. "That's impossible. I never saw them. I don't even know what they look like." "Maybe not. But your father trusted you. He might have left them where only you would find them." I wanted to argue, but a flicker in the window caught my attention. Graham had left the cafe. He was across the street now, angled in a way that didn't look like coincidence. Daniel saw it too. "We need to move." We cut down another side street, my pulse hammering. I tried to process everything: my father's death, the missing files, the stranger who seemed to know too much. As we turned the corner, Daniel slowed. "There's something I haven't told you," he said quietly. I stopped. "What now?" He hesitated, scanning the street behind us. "Graham isn't the only one looking for those files." A gust of wind rattled a loose sign above the doorway beside us. I glanced over my shoulder, expecting to see Graham's grey suit. But the figure standing half a block away wasn't him. The man half a block away was taller than Graham, dressed in a plain black coat with the collar turned up. His stance wasn't casual, feet planted, hands still. He didn't move even when our eyes met. Daniel's tone sharpened. "We keep walking. Don't acknowledge him." We turned down another street, weaving through foot traffic until the man in the coat was out of sight. But I could feel him in the back of my mind, the same way I'd felt Graham in the cafe, deliberate, fixed on me. Once we reached a quieter block, I stopped. "You said he's not the only one looking for the files. Who is that?" Daniel hesitated. "His name's Victor Lane. Private recovery agent. Works for whoever pays the most." "Corporate cleanup?" I asked. "Worse. He doesn't care about legality, just outcomes. If Graham wants to keep the files buried, Victor's job is to make sure they disappear, and so do you, if necessary." I swallowed hard. "And you're helping me out of what?" "Loyalty to my father." Daniel met my gaze without flinching. "Partly. And partly because I know what it's like to have the truth ripped away from you." We spent the next hour circling through side streets, making sure we weren't being followed. Finally, we ended up in my apartment, blinds drawn, the city noise muffled behind closed windows. Daniel spread a sheet of paper across my kitchen table. On it was a list of locations: old storage units, safety deposit boxes, office addresses. "These are all places your father visited in the last month of his life. If the files are anywhere, they're here." I stared at the list. "And you think I should start looking?" "I think," Daniel said, leaning back, "you should find them before someone else does." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I opened the message. Stop digging. You won't like what you find. I turned the phone so Daniel could see it. His jaw tightened. That's not Graham's style. That's Victor. I didn't reply to the message. Instead, I saved the number. If they want me to stop, it means I'm close. Daniel gave me a measured look. Close to the truth, or close to trouble? Maybe both, I said, sliding the phone into my pocket. But either way, I'm not stopping. Later that night, I checked my apartment door before bed. A small envelope had been slid under it. Inside was a single key and a scrap of paper with 3 words. You missed something. I stared at it for a long time, my pulse steady now. Whoever left it wasn't Graham, and it wasn't Victor. Which meant there was someone else in the game, someone I hadn't even met yet. I locked the door, turned off the lights, and sat down with the key in my hand. Tomorrow, I'd find out who else was playing, and why they'd just invited me in.